Today I decided to do a quick follow-up on my first video on inverse finance when I introduced the DOLA stablecoin. And in this one, I'm going to discuss mainly the yield opportunities that you can leverage with DOLA, by minting it after borrowing in the FIRM. So again, if you haven't watched the video, please refer to it because it gives you a nice groundwork of how DOLA is utilized, minted, leveraged, and backed. Okay, it's very important. The main thing that you should be aware of is how well the DOLA supply is controlled. If you look right now at the available to borrow column in the FIRM, so this one right here, and if you add up the numbers, there's about 173k in total that can be minted right now. Because if you recall, I mentioned peg management in regards to the DOLA stablecoin. And right now, the FED contracts dictate that that is the maximum that people can borrow in regards to the current debt-backed equation, so to speak, all right? Now, before we get into what could be, for example, a nice way to go about this, or to smart farm your way into this, let's quickly talk about what's out there, all right? So what can you use DOLA in and earn on DOLA? So overall, DOLA exists on all the L2s, all right? So we're talking Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base. When I say all, of course there are more, but I'm talking about the prolific ones. So the ones that are out there in the middle of the battlefield in regards to L2 dominance. And there are also many opportunities on the main net, so Ethereum. Now, everything is labeled in front of you. You can see that indeed, in general, there are, in the majority of cases, of course, there are stable pairs. There are some volatile pairs, for example, with ETH and other prolific assets. But in general, the idea is that it's paired with USDC or some other stablecoin, and it gives you at least 10% APR overall. Now, of course, you can get even more than 10% if you go on more riskier plays like XtraFi, that is on Optimism and Base. And I spoke about XtraFi twice already. If you haven't watched these videos, please refer to them. It's a very cool protocol, and what they're doing is very interesting. And the risk is mitigated somehow. But with anything there is risk, because of course when you go the leverage way of farming, there is risk, definitely. So like I said, there are many V3 options, and of course you have the elite DeFi protocols like Curve, Convex, on Ethereum, and even there the APR is quite impressive, not gonna lie. Usually when a protocol gets above $1 billion in terms of total value locked, which these guys have, specifically Curve, to still have 10% plus APR, that's quite impressive, all right? And you also have retrofinance on Polygon. This one only has one pair with their own stablecoin called Cash. It gives about 30%. Arbitrum has Chronos, Balancer, and Aura. Now, unfortunately, Chronos is not a good place to park your funds. The TVL has shrunk close to 3 million. Price is plummeting greatly, and there isn't really incentive to go there. But Balancer and Aura, good places. Aura has a very volatile APR, by the way. I am in Aura, but the APR can vary from 10 to 30%, and that can happen in one day. So keep in mind that that exists, even though it gives you try rewards. So you have Aura, their native asset, the BAL, the Balancer asset, and it gives you ARB as well, so Arbitrum. That's why I'm there, actually, to accumulate some Arbitrum. And then on Optimism, you have Aura as well, Yearn Finance, Velodrome, XtraFi, like I said, and Aerodrome, XtraFi on Base. So quite the range of yield farming opportunities, all right, not gonna lie. So overall, if you do the math yourself, if you want to leverage DOLA without the risk, it's just easy enough to go on one of these dexes, buy the asset, and just pair it with USDC, for example, and stake it and earn that yield. That is the easiest perhaps the less riskier way to go about this. Now, of course, there is a risk of depeg that's, you know, that's out there with most stable coins, but if that risk is something you're okay with, that's the easiest way to go about this. Now, the more rewarding way, which is also a bit more riskier, is to actually leverage FIRM to get your dollar and then pair it and then farm with it. And with that, if you come here, you see what's out there. You see, like I mentioned in the previous video, I spoke about the underlying APYs that you can get from staking some of these assets. And you have the one that gives you the most, which is the native asset of the DAO, INV. It gives you an impressive APR, but it also carries the most risk because the price action of INV isn't that impressive, even though I did mention that it's on Coinbase, so legitimacy confirmed. But even then, you can see that the price is fluctuating greatly. So the risky part is that the price can plummet, so it can really go down, especially with alt season not existent right now, and all alts are getting plummeted versus BTC, which has a dominance of 54% now, I think. There is enough downside potential that could be there. However, if you are somebody with a long-term vision and you wanna leverage the cheap prices of tokens like INV, for example, you can, you know, pick up yourself, take the risk if you're willing to, buy a nice position, and when INV increases in price, if it does increase, of course, then you're not only gaining money from the underlying APY, from the dollar pair that you have staked somewhere, but also from the price appreciation of the token itself. So it's a try-win type of situation, but it's also more risky. You can go the CVX route, which is also a bit risky, not a bit, actually even a lot risky, because CVX is a farmable token. It does have a very good APY, but still, if we go right now and we check the price action of CVX, it will give us an idea of what. So for example, it dropped on the daily 4%. So you see, so never mind the 19% APY, if the token can drop 4% in one day, that's not amazing, all right? So it carries a lot of risk. I think for me, if the supply existed in the assets to borrow, you can see it's almost non-existent, it would be amazing to deposit STETH, earn on that STETH in an underlying position, and then take dollar and earn on it. But unfortunately, there's nothing here. Now the best, all right, and I will repeat, the best way to go about this, but unfortunately it's not active right now. If I scroll down to the bottom, it's the DAI route, and that unfortunately has a dollar supply that is depleted. So I keep an eye on this one, because you deposit DAI, you earn 5% APY on a stable coin, mostly backed by USDC and ETH. And plus you can get 90% collateralization ratio, which I'm okay with because it's DAI. The chances of it slipping below 0.9 or 90 cents is low, so I'm okay with that. So I'll take, let's say you deposit 10K in DAI, you earn 5% APY, and then you take 9K in dollar and you earn 20% APY, you're technically earning 25% APY with a mitigated risk, versus taking the whole thing in dollar and then earning 20%. You're still earning additional 5% on top of that 20% just by supplying DAI. So that option was amazing. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. And like I said, there are other options, but you can see that there's no supply, basically. Majority of it is in OHM, but I don't trust this asset. Plus, it doesn't have an underlying yield, so I'm not gonna take the risk there on, you know? I would think if I would go this route, I will either take the wrapped ETH version or the INV version. Perhaps if INV drops to a certain level, I might take the risk, but let's see. So I think I'm gonna end it here. So I just wanted to talk about the yield opportunities. I just wanted to basically clarify a few things, discuss what are the ways that you can leverage both FIRM and DOLA or just DOLA. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, either personally or on the main group. If you're not part of DeFi Ascension, I will leave a link below. Be sure to join us. We are a cool bunch of people. We discussed lots of yield opportunities in DeFi overall. There's lots of degen things going on, of course, but the majority of it is actual yield driven by actual DeFi protocols. If you want to be part of something like this, like-minded individuals, matured investors, join us. We'll be delighted to have you. And with that, see you in the next one. Have a good one.